because it's such a deadly disease, people are scared, and it's normal to be scared. In fact, for the healthcare workers who are caring for people with Ebola, we want them to be scared. We want them to have a healthy respect of the risk of any lapse in infection control procedure. We want them to channel that fear into being incredibly meticulous about infection control.
That was the head of the CDC driving home the fact that meticulous efforts should be made to control the spread of Ebola. Now, of course, it seems that a likely scenario would be shutting down any air travel from the Ebola zone. In fact, a study that was published just last month in a scientific journal predicted that the virus would reach the U.S. by the end of September. The scientists warned that the only way to prevent Ebola from spreading internationally would be to shut down air travel and impose a quarantine. But in a world where 2 + 2 = 5, the CDC says that shutting down any air travel is only going to make things worse. Now, last month, just 2 weeks before this first confirmed case of Ebola hit the United States, Robert David Steele came on the Alex Jones Show and warned that a staged Ebola false flag terror attack was on the horizon.
They will have another false flag. In fact, the false flag I'm hearing about is a simulated Ebola attack in which they actually use biochemical weapons that dissipate, but then they pretend that it's Ebola and that it has been brought here by Saudi martyrs. Okay, so no, we have not reached the end of the false flag line.
Now, Steele elaborates at his website, if the Ebola virus hits in the USA, it will be either a false flag biochemical stand-in, volunteers who are already in the USA will be infected by Saudi clinicians, or white virgins who are not known by the USA to be associated in any way with terrorism will be infected in Europe. Now, U.S. intelligence sources are reporting that ISIS militants are planning to pose as refugees in order to plant operatives in Europe. And the U.S. sources say that the militant organization is afraid of using aircraft due to strict security rules, so they'll use land as an alternative. The FBI admits that another attack on the U.S. is imminent, and they say the Khorasan group could still be working on a plan to attack the U.S. or its allies, and they are looking to do it very, very soon. And a Southern Texas Border Patrol agent has confirmed to CBS affiliate Valley Central News that immigrants from Ebola-stricken nations have been apprehended trying to illegally enter the country via the wide-open border.
Not too long ago, we did catch some people, I believe, from Liberia. Some of our agents did contract scabies and some of the other things that the illegal aliens had. Luckily, it's not something that's deadly like Ebola.
And of course, the Border Patrol agents are only speaking of those that they have actually caught trying to enter the country illegally. Who knows how many people will be able to enter the country and won't get caught. But don't worry about the wide open border. Don't even think about shutting down any air travel from Ebola-stricken nations. No, the CDC only wants healthcare workers who are already dealing with Ebola patients to use meticulous efforts to make sure that this disease is not spread. What about the TSA? Now, we've already spoken a lot about how Ebola has been extensively studied for its use as a bioweapon. Shouldn't the TSA be doing its job and protecting the nation from a potential terror attack?
I expected that they were going to take my temperature, they were going to ask me lots of questions, but they didn't. I said, I'm a journalist, I've come back from Liberia, I was covering Ebola. He started to hand my passport back and say, welcome home, but instead he said, oh, wait a second, I got an email about passengers like you, hold on a second. And he went and conferred with someone, and he didn't know, and they conferred with someone else, and in the end he said, you need to watch yourself for signs of Ebola. And I said, well, what am I watching for? And he couldn't tell me.
Meanwhile, we have the scientists who first discovered Ebola warning of an apocalyptic type scenario if this mutates. And then we've got the federal government on the other side refusing to shut down any air travel from the Ebola-stricken nations, refusing to even implement a quarantine. So, of course, the Ebola false flag is going to roll out as predicted.
In the past decade, we have witnessed unparalleled scientific discoveries in the area of health. But no one has put together a formula that focuses directly on brain health, nerve growth factors, and optimizing your cellular energy at the same time. DNA Force is one of the most expensive formulas to produce. Some of the ingredients in DNA Force are $12,000 a kilogram. we are using the coveted, patented, only American source of PQQ, CoQ10, and more. You want the best that's out there at the lowest price anywhere? Well, we're bringing you a total win-win. The ultimate value, cutting-edge, trailblazing game changer that also supports the InfoWar. We have produced a limited run of DNA Force, and it will take up to 12 weeks to produce more once we sell out. Secure your DNA Force today at InfoWarsLife.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139. DNA Force from InfoWars Life.